Hi folks, and welcome to today's webinar from Irish Rugby. Today we're going to be looking at those considerations returning to pitches. We're going to look at understanding the players' needs in doing that and making sure that we are aware of some of the challenges that are going to be faced by coaches and players in this Ready for Rugby period. I'm delighted to go and bring Ray Gadsden from Munster Rugby in to now actually speak to some of the challenges that we will face in understanding players' needs and returning to rugby. Ray, how's things?
Good, thanks. Thanks, Colm. Thanks for the intro. I'm just going to share a couple of slides with you. So I just briefly want to speak about some of the considerations we might need to make for our young players returning to rugby. Will they be anxious coming back in? I mean, you must remember they may have been away from teammates and friends for a long time. They might be slightly socially awkward coming back in. And what we can do as adults just to try and ease their fears. Okay, as adults, we're trying to make sure we give them the assurances and the guidance that they need. The way we can do that is by being really energetic, really inclusive, trying to make that safe space so they can reintegrate with their friends again. Our approach into this should be, in our sessions, they should be fun and just filled with enjoyment. It's about participation, not performance. Remember, there's no leagues, there's no cups. This is just a chance for us all to re-engage with our players again. Okay. As coaches, we really need to be positive. We need to be encouraging. We need to ask them loads of questions. But more importantly, we need to listen to what they say as well and what they think. Personally, I think sometimes we don't give our young players enough credit for their thoughts and their understanding. At the end of each of our sessions, I think we all know as coaches of the sessions, seems to fly. All our points we get across seem to come to fruition, and the players are beaming. However, one or two of the things I want you to really think about is, was it active? Was it purposeful? Did we really achieve what we're trying to achieve out that session? Was it enjoyable and was it safe? And I think if we can tick all those four boxes, then we've probably created that fun and enjoyable rugby experience. What we really want when they're leaving the first session, we just want them leaving really excited, so they want to come back next week and the week after. And I think more importantly is we want them really excited when they come back in August and September for the new rugby season. So I'm just going to slip onto the next slide. And this is just in regards to us as staff and staff right across the country. Like we want to do what we do best. We want to be on the pitch. We want to re-engage with all of our clubs and our players and the coaches and all the volunteers. And we want to be able to give everybody that support and confidence to get back onto the pitch safely. So can I suggest, if you're not sure about anything, then you can either contact Colm directly or your development officers in each region. And we're here to help and give that support. So let's get on to the rugby stuff. We're not in pre-season, okay? Players don't need laps and they don't need conditioning, even if they do need laps and conditioning. At this stage of the season, we're just coming to the end. And again, we want to create a really enjoyable rugby experience, okay? Fundamental movement skills and flexibility that can be built into your sessions is all they need. I really don't know many people that really enjoy doing laps. Unless you're an 800-metre runner or a 1500-metre runner, it's not required at the moment. Okay, so in regards to the game, and I've put let the game be your guide, and I'm going to delve into that just a little bit more deeply. So instead of going drill, 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 and maybe a game towards the end, is we use the game as our starting point. For example, if I want to try and work on improving catch pass for today, is I play a game of squeeze ball. So for those who don't know what squeeze ball is, when the ball carrier is tipped, all the defenders come narrow. They either go shoulder to shoulder or go down on one knee while the attack realigns, and the ball carrier that can then pass the ball back out into play. That creates realignment, catch pass, and decision making. So ask yourself what players really want. Do players at the moment, do they want to be doing loads of drills, or do they want to be playing loads of games? And if you remember when you as a child, what you really enjoyed, and I'd say it's playing games. So just have a thought on what our priorities are for the moment. So we all know there's plenty of non-contact versions of the game. There's tag, there's touch, and there's Rugby Prime, which is a 2-touch variation of the game. Down in Munster, we've been using this a lot for the last couple of years, and there's different variations you can play. For those that don't know, on the first touch, the ball carrier can continue running. So we're really encouraging the ball carrier to beat the first line of defence. On the second touch, from a different player, you can either get the players to 2-touch pass, which really speeds the game up, 2-touch stop and roll between your legs. So we have an offside line with attack and defence, or a 2-touch turnover, which it really challenges the support to get there. In regards to regulations at the moment, if you're playing a 7v7 game of Rugby Prime, you can adapt the defences to show a different picture for your players. So the attack of all 7. The defense, you can have 4 players as the third line of defence and 3 players as the second line of defence, or 5 and 2, or 6 and 1, and every single time it just shows a different picture for those players to explore. At the moment, as you're well aware, the IRFU in all the provinces, we have plenty of video resources out there for you, with games and skills and activities. And I'm sure Colm will be sending further details out down along the line. Okay, that's it for me, folks. I'd be very happy. I'm staying on to answer any questions. I hope that's given a bit of an overview of what young players are coming into. So I'm just going to pass back to Colm.
Without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to go and bring Fraser Gow into the fray. Fraser, you will know Fraser from, I suppose, Connacht Rugby's social media. He has done every job bar Andy Friends currently in this last year, I think, and has been a massive asset to them as well. So Fraser, thanks a million for coming on board, and if you want to give us some insights into your own experiences there.
Thanks, Colm. And if Andy's listening, just to reassure him, I'm not after his job either. So that's the key. Just put that, take any tensions away. But no, guys, really appreciate you inviting me on. And I suppose over the last year or so have become the contact point for COVID-19 and Connacht Rugby. No medical expertise behind me, apart from maybe a first aid certificate here and there. But I feel I've now, with the help of the guys in the IRFU and Rod McLaughlin, have a really good overview of the requirements that we are working in, and also the situations that we may experience as we go through training sessions, returning to the pitch. But today, guys, I'm gonna briefly tee us up, I suppose, what we're working in at the minute. As you can see on screen there, so that's from yesterday in Ireland. Again, as Colm said, you know, in Northern Ireland, things are slightly different, just under the government there, in terms of, I believe that you returned a couple of weeks ago, and maybe at a different stage. But this would be the focus from ourselves in Connacht, and the rest of Ireland. That return of underage non-contact training outdoor in pods of 15 since yesterday. And I suppose the key thing in setting our stall out here is it's non-contact training. These are the parameters that we are working in at this moment in time, and this is obviously the first stage of any return. But hopefully, you know, as we go along in the coming weeks and months, we can gradually progress that. But the key for me would be that we focus on what we can do at the moment, and as I say, that would be our non-contact training. You know, what we're focusing on there would be our skills activities, and in particular games, and that would be a big emphasis for me over the coming slides. Obviously, tag and touch games are allowed. Again, that would be within our pods of 15. This is just really an extract of a slide that we took from our Connacht Ready video that we'd done, which again was an extension of the full Ready for Rugby programme, just outlining, you know, the parameters that we were working in, but then going on to discuss how we can get the most out of our training sessions. So yeah, as I said, guys, at the start, let's just really tease it up. So this is the parameters or the challenges that we as coaches have, and how can we adapt best to get the most out of our sessions, and also give the players the best experience for them, you know, coming back after 4 months. So this is just something I want to touch on, guys, from the coaching side, and I suppose it fits well into Ray's aspect around the APES principle, active, purposeful, enjoyable, and safe. And I suppose this probably teases out the purposeful aspect more so, but I would certainly reiterate the overall fun and enjoyment aspect at this stage would be vital. Again, just to see the players out back, you know, in a training environment, training in their pods, and, you know, being able to, within that activity, you know, interact with their friends. You know, I don't think you can beat that, and credit to all the coaches that are on here today, because, you know, there are challenges that we face in terms of getting back out in the pitch, but it's great to see, you know, almost all clubs that I've spoken to are getting back out for on the pitch. As I say, these three things are key for me, in that they should be in all rugby training sessions. And again, the reason I actually, before I put this together, I had them numbered, but realised afterwards that you can actually mix these in throughout your sessions. And the next slide will show, I suppose, how you can do that. Key for me, first and foremost, would be our mastery or familiarity. So that players know the skills or techniques that they're being asked to execute. And again, although your teams probably have, and your players have, a good grounding in those from, you know, years of playing rugby possibly, but if we do think about the fact we have been absent for 4 or 5 months now, and a refresher may be required. So that could be a kind of small, you know, reduced activity. If we take the catch pass in isolation, we're just really breaking that skill right down to, you know, being able to make that pass off the hip, you know, catching early, and snapping our head to the target, and that can be done in a kind of one-on-one, you know, scenario, just passing back and forth, maybe 10 reps off each hand, for example. And the next two sections, you know, the applying pressure and decision making, key aspects of our game awareness, or our understanding the game, and putting our players in situations that replicate, you know, a game, which is so important. And this is something that we can really take advantage of now, even though it's non-contact. Certainly around that catch, pass, and decision-making elements, you know, we can really, you know, work on over the next couple of weeks and months. And again, the applying pressure and decision-making, I'd say, are in essence interchangeable, that they can be done, you know, before or after. There's no particular order, but it's just important that you would have those aspects, you know, in your training sessions. And again, this just gives, I suppose, the outline of the spectrum, I suppose, we're looking at from our technique zone, you know, through to our game zone, making sure we include all those aspects. So the mastery, familiarity would really be that technique zone that we spoke about in the previous slide. Our skill zone would be, applying pressure, so that may be a snapshot of the game. And then our game zone is, replicating what you may see, when we get back into games and game scenarios. You can see there, I've just outlined, I suppose, the kind of mix of session tempos, I suppose is the way you put it. Again, you can mix that throughout your session. You may start your session with a game as a kind of warm up to switch the players on, and then go again back and forth through that low pace to high pace. And as Ray mentioned, it is really important to think that we are just coming back after a fairly long layoff. So that kind of gradual build in, is really important for us, and refresher certainly within those first couple of weeks. But you'll know your own players when they come back. Some players will come back, really, I've been tipping away, I've been doing a lot. Other players may come back, they've done some kind of, activity, over the last 4 months, but maybe not as much as others. So just really important to strike that balance. And again, guys, just a couple of video clips here of a few examples of, and again, this would probably be more verging into the skill zone, or our small warm up. This is what I class as creative squares, and it does what it says in the tin. It's just a square. You've got defenders on each side of the square. It's quite small at the moment, but again, the size can be varied. And as you can see, it's kind of constant 2v1s. So we're really trying to get our players switched on for that decision-making activity. You can see the catch pass elements that are included. Also a realignment and communication with the players in the middle. You can obviously swap, you may just want 2 players defending all 4 sides, which again is adding a bit more challenge and a bit of fun, element in there. But it's really just keeping them in here for 30 seconds and just getting them as switched on as possible. And then going into a game based scenario you'll film here, which I'll show in the next clip. This would really be, again, the game-based approach here, as you saw in the previous slides. So this game's called Transition Touch. It actually works perfectly with your pods of 15. We're actually playing 6-on-6 here, but with 3 players that are constantly attacking. So again, what we're looking to do is the attack always have that overlap. We're looking for players to identify that space, communicate the space, and then ultimately execute, as taking advantage of the space. And you can see, a couple of examples of that, in these clips. Also, it's a really fun game, and as we talked about elements and conditioning, it's constant as well. So the players are working under fatigue, so it does offer that element. A couple of other variations of this game that you can use are that, someone makes a touch tackle, then they become an attacker. So again, we're just overloading that attack, all the time. You can see all the other elements that we're adding in, our footwork, our communication. But for me, this game of Transition Touch is really important for that identification of space, the communication of it, and then executing, our catch pass skills. And also, you can see some of our running lines, included in that example there as well. This is a really good graphic for me, guys, and something I saw a while ago, and I've just always kept it. And it just, again, re-emphasizes that technique, skill zone, game zone. You can see that funnel effect, as we go up. We really want, the skill zone and game zone to take up the majority of our sessions, particularly that game zone, because we want the players, recreating scenarios that we may experience in games, and again, we learn from experience in that sense. But it's important to have all 3 elements in there, because you do need that skill zone. So obviously taking that snapshot of the game that we spoke about, and that allows you to break it down and also ask the questions to players, as Ray mentioned. Technique zone, again, I would stress that is important, although it may only make up a small part of your session. But because we've been off for a while, it's just, again, getting those techniques and those reps back in, so that we can then work back up, through the skills and then the game zone. And summary for me, guys, is just, how to get the most out of your sessions at this time. Understanding your group of players, and I'd relate that to that. I think Colm and Ray spoke about people may be anxious getting back out in groups initially. So it's really just getting them back in an environment, and this could even, form the basis of you. How do you decide your pod of 15? So one thing to stress would certainly be that you've got a group of friends, working in that pod as well, because ultimately, why do our young players come to sessions? It's to get that interaction with their mates, with their friends. There may be other considerations around your groupings as well, which I'm sure have been clearly set out and have been set out in previous IRFU webinars. But again, it's important that they would be working with their friend group. I think from that as well is just from the safety aspect that we as coaches and as a club, that we are all bought into what we are required to do as well. So that we show parents and players that more or less they can forget about the COVID-19 aspects, because we've got that all in hand and we will manage anything that crops up. That gradual build-up is important. Again, I've said it a couple of times, but just we have been off for a while, so recognising that it may, it will be required for us just to gradually build up sessions and maybe the tempo of sessions. But also, I think first, getting back to the base of it would be fun for me at this point in time as well, but also making them purposeful. Fundamental movement skills. I don't think people maybe appreciate maybe that those fundamental movement skills can be lost quite easily, again, with that period of inactivity. So really just everything that we're doing, we add in, with our games, etc., those elements of fundamental movement skills. And those are outlined by a lot of the IRFU resources that are available on the websites or through your individual provinces. Game-based approach, as we saw in the example clip that I gave, you can do a lot. The pods of 15 is actually advantageous to that small-sided games. Players are getting a lot of touches. Players involved a lot. You can then switch up and vary the rules around that. As Ray mentioned, the kind of defence pictures that you're showing, you can constantly change. Try new things. I'd say as a coach, this is an opportunity for us to challenge ourselves as well, and just try new things that we might not have done. These sessions will not look like pre-COVID sessions, but get out there, try new things, and again in your review you can say, okay, that worked, that didn't work. You can continue things that do work, and that creativity element, just allowing your group of players, even setting them a task after the training session. Guys, I want you to come up with the game that a small game that we start with. I just want you to give us 2 rules. The only thing is that we're passing the ball, for example, and they can be creative in that element. Some may say, okay, one-handed offloads, left-handed offloads, those type of things. You can only run in. Or some people can run with the ball, some people can run without. But use the creativity of the group, and also back to the understanding of the group. What's kind of relevant, at this point in time as well, around kind of what's popular, out there. You see that kind of gamification, aspect. Add kind of, points or different scoring zone, based and type activities, onto those sessions, and use the you don't always have to be the creative one. I think Ray said it, but sometimes the stuff that the kids can come out with just, blows your mind. But yeah, just use that base that you've got. Yeah, and guys, just best of luck and thanks to everyone. And obviously, as I say, it's a challenge for us, but I think it certainly far outweighs getting the kids out on a pitch after such a long layoff than the maybe hour of us having to do things a bit differently.
Thanks, Fraser. Very good. Yeah, and look, I won't even ask you to comment on the rumours that you're going to play young Sean Connery in a biographical movie at some stage coming up. Look, we'll move on to a couple of questions that we've had come in, and a couple of points I just want to really emphasise that is, from both Ray and Fraser. And look, I think Ray, one of the things I really picked up from what you said was that participation, not performance. And if you could just go and just delve a little bit deeper into that one, just give us a 30 seconds, just exactly what you mean by that.
Yeah, well, I mean, look at the moment. There's no leagues, there's no cups. We're not trying to prepare teams to go into competitions. We're trying to re-engage with those players to give them such a good rugby experience that they come back to join us next week and next season. So if they're leaving the pitch with a smile on their face, whether they're 6 or they're 18, then we've probably done our job right.
Yeah, look, couldn't agree more. And I suppose, look, one of the questions then that have come in from the audience there is that, you know, as we return to training, we'll come up against the return of training of other sports. What would be your main point to get across to keep kids interested in rugby over the next while? And I think you've nailed one of the things there is it has to have a positive rugby experience. You know, they have to be enjoying themselves. They have to have the smile on the face leaving. That's all we have, you know. And again, it serves a wider purpose than just developing rugby. It's about the young players' mental health, their opportunity to get back with their friends, as Fraser, I know you spoke of. And you know, I think another thing then that we need to really emphasize is we have to spend this time working with other sports, because a lot of people will be, you know, saying, oh, well, we need to get back training, we need to get back out there. We don't want to burn out kids either. So if possible, go and speak to the other sports, try and make sure that you're mindful of how much children are playing in this return, and not to burn them out as well, because look, they're the future of all our sports, and we need to make sure that we look after them now. Fraser, I suppose, you know, if we come back to one of the things you kind of emphasised on was obviously game adaptation, you know, is very necessary within the pod system. But even just that makeup of the pods as well, and the friendship and how important that might be. So if you want to just expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, I think, you know, we do. You probably have two sections to that in terms of the pods. There's obviously the grouping aspect that's important from the COVID kind of compliance and what maybe in an ideal world looks like. But you do have to get that balance with, you know, imagine me as an individual going into, you know, a training session and, you know, my 5 mates in another pod. You know, that probably immediately, you know, the attitude that I'm going into that session with is I'm down about it. You know, I'm not, you know, got that smile on my face looking forward to rugby training, because I'm maybe a bit jealous that, oh, the lads are over there or the girls are over there. So, you know, I think it is just key that you know, you're balancing that and ensuring that you understand why your players are coming to train. You know, some of them, yeah, absolutely want to improve their rugby skills, but it's that social aspect, you know, that's so important. And, you know, again, not only have we not been able to play rugby for the last couple of months, we've not been able to see people, you know, see our family members even, but see our friends as well. So again, I think that it's just a really important aspect, and fits in with what Ray's saying around that, you know, aspect of fun and participation, that, you know, that we want to be, you know, having that laugh and joke with our friends.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And again, I suppose from some of the stuff we're doing in schools through the LD Play Rugby program, we've seen, you know, from our conversations with teachers as well, who've obviously been back for slightly longer, some of the skills are really losing those social interaction skills, and they're some of the first things that they need to work on, especially in that play setting. So it's really important that we're mindful of that, and you know, that we keep that in our mind's eye whenever we're going and seeing skill levels or comfort levels around there. We have to make sure that, you know, they're getting a positive experience. They've had a tough time of it as well as ourselves. One thing then, I suppose the two last questions we'll speak of. You know, one of the things that you both kind of spoke on, which was, you know, Ray, you used the phrase "let the game be the guide," and then Fraser, you were referring to, you know, that we don't always have to be the ones who go and create the games and things like that, and that gamification, and it's a huge learning, I suppose, that I would have had over this period, is that, you know, we often try and constrain things and create everything ourselves. But if you go and allow children the freedom, and young players the freedom to go and, you know, even just leave a bag of equipment on the ground, they will go and figure out some fun game to play. So look, Fraser, we might come to yourself first and kind of, you know, see just if you have any further thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think that's it's just really important, you know, to give them that, you know, that element of freedom. I don't want to get into the Braveheart freedom aspect, but, you know, like the You're totally right though. Like you would be so surprised with what kids would come up with, and it you're sitting back thinking, geez, I would never have come up with that. So and it actually can aid your coaching. If you go into other groups, you can say, oh guys, would you like to try this game? And it's actually been one of your players that's come up with it. So that's why I like that aspect of just setting kids a wee task, or setting two people a task of, okay guys, you're coming to the next session and you're presenting what the game is, and it's just 5-10 minutes, and it's amazing how quickly the other players will be adopting that, and they'll probably be bringing it into the other sports they're playing as well. But I think it's great to give them that environment to come up with their own things as well, and again, just aids that learning element.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Ray, have you anything to add?
Just leading on from that, I think it's a great opportunity as well at the moment is to introduce peer coaching. So when they're in their pods and they're in their groups, you get them to start giving feedback. Now I can feel 38 eyebrows rising as I'm saying this, but I promise you, it's what we've been working with over the last number of years with young players. And to start with, they can feel sort of very self-conscious, but the more we encourage it, the more they get used to doing it, and you can really see the full success of it further down the line when they're playing games. They're more comfortable just speaking to each other. So leading on from Fraser's thing is get them to give each other feedback. Let them come up with some of the activities, but that you don't have to be the coach all the time. If they're working in smaller groups, you can walk up and down and step in when you need to step in, but really encourage the players to give feedback to each other. Sorry, one very last one, Colm, and I just wanted to allude to what you said earlier about lots of different sports. I played all sports when I was growing up. I experienced lots of things, including basketball, even though I'm only 5'6". All sports, all sporting skills help each other. There's a huge crossover, especially in the sports we play in this country. So, embrace the other skills. Football helps rugby as much as rugby helps football as well, and hurling and soccer and all of our other sports. So I'll shut up now.
No, look, and you'd be first choice on my basketball team. It wouldn't be a very good team, but it'll be first choice. But as you say, there is those transferable skills, and they're hugely important. And we can see that with a lot of our our sevens players and those that have moved into our 15s and some of those, especially in the women's game currently, who've had that opportunity to play those multi-sports and then develop through. Look, I think, just to wrap things up, you've both spoken about that opportunity, and just to make a note on the opportunity itself, we understand you've got, as coaches, a huge amount of knowledge from webinars over the previous period of time. It's not expected that you go and input and create things and do things completely differently. So, understand that you need to maybe strip back. Less is more, as both the guys were saying there, let the game be the guide, or allow them to come up with their own ideas, and just be a little bit open. So look, I suppose if we go to Ray first, I suppose one key thing maybe that you might like people to leave with today.
I'd sum it up is just give them a really good rugby experience, and they'll come back to us. We're all looking to re-engage with our players, give them loads of confidence, give them loads of fun, and we'll see them in the next weeks and seasons coming ahead.
Perfect. Fraser, have you anything you want to finish on?
Yeah, I think a lot of it's been said, but I think just key that we're open for business in a sense. Like, let's get back out there, get the players back out there, because we have missed, a period of time. And yeah, it's a strange time that we're kind of restarting in a sense, because normally we're switching off and not thinking about rugby. We're looking forward to enjoying our summer off. But in general, however long you as a club choose to go back for, or in what format, obviously within the guidelines, I think just make sure you do get back, and then, as we go through the next weeks and months, hopefully we'll progress through, and we'll be able to start back, kind of what we'd see as normal, normal rugby season in the not so distant future.
Thanks, Fraser. Look, folks, I couldn't have finished it off any better. Just to remind you that any of our upcoming webinars, you can sign up for them now on www.irishrugby.ie. To thank David Keane and Orla Fulham for our back of office work today and our production. A huge thanks to Ray Gadsden and Fraser Gow. Fantastic insights and really interesting stuff. And for me, thanks, and I'll see you again.